If it's truly thinking, why does it never know what day it is anymore?
Here's 5 reasons.
Hi there, I'm retrogaming Puppet, and this is 5 Reasons. You know, we've never done a holiday-themed episode of this show before, but since we missed the Dreamcast 20th birthday back in September, and Joe's got a nostalgia-laden 1999 episode of Same Name, Different Game in the works, now seems like a perfect time to talk about 5 exclusive games that never left the platform of 1999's hottest Christmas video game gift item. The Dreamcast, as I'm sure anyone watching this show knows, was released in North America on September 9th, 1999, aka 9/9/99, and it was an event. Sega of America stumbled hard with the Saturn, but this was supposed to be their redemption arc. Now, before we get there, it was released in Japan the previous year, on November 27th, 1998, and a lot of folks considered a Japanese launch to be a bit of a disaster. While the North American market was essentially untouched by Sega's home systems in 1998, with the Saturn having been ignominiously sunset under Bernie Stolar's reign at Sega of America, Japan loved the thing. It was Sega's biggest home system success in Japan, and had only launched 4 years prior. I mean, that sounds crazy now, what with hardware generations having slowly expanded in recent years, but even in 1998, 5 years was generally considered the length of a hardware generation. So there's an argument that Sega was shooting itself in the foot by releasing the Dreamcast when the Saturn clearly still had life left in it. And the PS2 wasn't coming until 2000. I mean, they had time. At any rate, the Japanese launch included a paltry 4 games. And while other systems have had small launch lineups, this one didn't have anything like a Mario 64, you know? The 4 games were Virtua Fighter 3 TB, Pen Pen Tri-Isolon, Godzilla Generations, and a visual novel called July. On the other hand, the North American system's 9/9/99 launch was accompanied by what is now remembered as one of the strongest launch lineups in history, with almost 20 games, including an exclusive home port of Namco's Soul Calibur that looks even better than the arcade original, a proper 3D Sonic game in Sonic Adventure, and a handful of other solid efforts like Capcom's Power Stone, Midway's NFL Blitz 2000, and more. Sadly, that strong start didn't translate to much. The Dreamcast, using a proprietary disc format called GD-ROMs that were surprisingly easy to bootleg on normal CDs, and not a DVD drive, meant that when the PS2 hit the market worldwide in late 2000, it wasn't pretty. I mean, yes, Sony was following up on what was then the most successful game console of all time, but they didn't have nearly the same level of success with the PS3, which was doing the same thing. But the PS2 was one of the cheapest DVD players on the market at a time when DVDs were just getting underway. Beyond not supporting DVDs, Sega also banked on the popularity of quality arcade ports, of which there were many on the Dreamcast, but this was during a time when the arcade was on a fast track to irrelevance. When all was said and done, the Dreamcast was Sega's worst-selling home console at just over 9 million units worldwide. Well, unless you count the Pico, which I don't, so don't at me, bro. The system's life officially ended in 2002, with Sega declaring they were going the way of third-party game development. Which, I mean, honestly, was probably the best decision they could have made. They were in dire financial straits, to the point that Isao Okawa, chairman of Sega's parent company from 1984 until his death in 2001, returned his full shares of stock to the company itself to save it from bankruptcy shortly before his death. The value of those shares? Over $755 million in today's money. But in that short time, we got a surprisingly robust library with a ton of games that still haven't left the platform. And the platform continues getting new games, homebrew, as well as ports of older games, thanks to a great fan community. So hey, let's do it. Here are 5 vaguely winter and holiday themed reasons to own a Sega Dreamcast. Let's start with the game that doesn't really fit the theme, unless you're playing a Sub-Zero, of course. Mortal Kombat Gold was a Dreamcast exclusive update to Mortal Kombat 4 and a North American launch title. Sadly, MK4 is often thought of as, Well, if not the worst mainline MK game, certainly in the bottom tier. Gold doesn't do much to improve the gameplay, but it did add 6 new characters from earlier entries in the series. Baraka, Kitana, Melina, Cyrax, Sector, and Kung Lao all show up in addition to the complete MK4 roster.
Fatality.
This is the best looking of all the home ports, and with the 6 extra characters, it's pretty easy to argue that it is the definitive version of Mortal Kombat 4. A game that still isn't all that great to begin with, and to add insult to injury, it is in the $40 to $50 range in the current aftermarket, but if you're an MK aficionado, I guess you gotta go for it. Hey, another launch title. Look, this game was derided at the time, receiving mostly lukewarm reviews labeling it as a kid's game. And while those aren't necessarily wrong, I think when you're talking about a cutesy racing game featuring mutant penguins that's asking for your full price and attention next to Soul Calibur and Sonic Adventure, that's fair criticism. But now it's kind of quaint, actually. I think with 4 players this could be a lot of fun. Sure, there are only 4 tracks, each with several variations, but it's a decent and unique racer with running, swimming, and belly sliding sections of each track. Look, it's not going to be your new favorite Dreamcast game or anything like that, but if you have 3 friends who like old games as much as you do, I would say it's definitely worth the $10 to $15 asking price the game currently fetches. The holidays are often associated, at least in the US, and perhaps even more so in our original home of the great state of Wisconsin, with football. And this game is an interesting time capsule in more than the usual ways. To the younger members of our audience, it might be a shock that there used to be NFL games that were not John Madden football. At the dawn of the Dreamcast, Sega purchased American studio Visual Concepts to introduce the 2K sports games. In 2005, they sold the brand and Visual Concepts to Take-Two Interactive, who now only make NBA and WWE 2K games, but at the beginning, they included football, baseball, and basketball. The one from the Dreamcast era that seems to be the best regarded is this one. The second 2K football game on the Dreamcast was the final one to not hit any other platforms, and it rides the line of simulation and arcade style extremely well. Our tastes tend to go more to the Blitz games, but this one is still a lot of fun and much different than Madden. I probably don't have to tell you this, but old sports games are cheap as chips, as our friends across the pond like to say, so yeah, if you're into this, don't expect to pay more than $10 for a complete copy. Extreme sports games were big in the late 90s and early aughts, in no small part due to the success of the Tony Hawk games, and snowboarding was definitely one of the genres to blow up. Nintendo published a critically acclaimed 1080 snowboarding on N64, Sony had the Cool Borders series. Sega also had the Cool Borders series, because this game is actually a Cool Borders game. It was released as Cool Borders Burn with 3 R's in Japan. But because Sony owned the name Cool Borders in the US, it became Rippin' Riders. Still short an R near as I can tell. Still, it feels like a Cool Borders game, and the clothing styles and music on hand here are like a late 90s time capsule. Whoa. Look, this game is no SSX tricky or anything like that, but it's a fun enough entry into the snowboarding genre, and, well, if you're a fan of the series and didn't know that it appeared on the Dreamcast under another name, you just gotta check it out. And this is another old sports game, so don't expect to pay more than $10. Folks, we slept on this one back in the day, but it turns out this game is pretty awesome. It feels like the natural evolution of Micro Machines games on the NES and Genesis, much more than the PS1 Micro Machines game did. While there is racing in this game, there's much more than that. You use a variety of vehicles, from toy planes to toy tanks to toy helicopters, to not only fight other toys like submarines in a flooded kitchen, but also to help around the house by starting eggs to boil and more. The controls on all the vehicles feel pretty good, and as you progress you open more rooms in the house, making for a variety of environments to complement the mission variety. There was even a Christmas-themed version of this game on certain demo discs back in the day. Now, if you, like us, slept on this one at the time, I can't recommend it enough. It is really surprisingly fun, and it's only in the $10 to $20 range now. And that does it. Whatever winter holiday you're celebrating, whether it's Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, or something else, we hope you have a happy one. And make sure to come back soon, because Joe's working on a same name, different game that is, like I said, a 1999 Christmas-themed nostalgia trip. So long. Hey folks, it's Joe. Thank you so much for watching. If you dug this, do the stuff YouTube likes you to do. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment below telling me your favorite Dreamcast game. If you really dug it, consider supporting the shows on Patreon. Just $1 per video gets you new episodes early, your name here with these cool people, and more. If you want more Sega holiday stuff with Roger, our Christmas Nights video is on the left. And if you want to check out last year's SNDG Xmas episode, the Days Before Christmas video is on the right.